Hi Rockstars, I'm Allie, your Rockstar Bar Girl. Welcome to this week's Tip of the Week Live. I'm going to, it's been a day folks. I'm gonna let some of you guys get in here and just chatter a little bit about some things that are going on while everyone comes into the room. First of all, I wanted to let you guys know at some point I'm going to run to the kitchen because today is my husband's birthday and I am making a Thai-inspired coconut curry shrimp soup with some either basmati or jasmine rice. I haven't decided just yet, basmati or jasmine, for dinner tonight. So at some point I'm gonna run over and make sure that I'm not burning anything. But that is on the stove. Not a super important announcement, but I thought I'd let you know in case I disappear. Couple of things that I want to let you guys know about. The first thing is a new instructional video has just been posted to my website, therockstarbargirl.com. In a previous video, we learned how to make 1-to-1 white sugar simple syrup, which is the standard, typical simple syrup that you will, hi guys, I see you coming in here, that you will use extensively when making cocktails. But you may not know that you can play with simple syrup and make it with a whole bunch of different sweeteners like agave, molasses, honey, stevia even. And so in this instructional video, I teach you how to make honey syrup. So you can see how that's a little bit different from making 1-to-1 white simple syrup. But also in this video, I show you how to infuse this honey syrup with herbs, spices, and aromatics. And that's something that you see done in the cocktail world a lot. People will infuse into their simple syrups different flavors so that they can add that flavor along with sweetness to their cocktail and just bring another layer of flavor to their cocktail. So one really popular thing that you see is people making mint simple syrup for their mojitos. So it's like an extra level of that mint flavor along with the sweetness that the simple syrup provides. So that video is now available on my website. As I mentioned in my previous lives, all of my instructional videos from now on are going to be on my website. And the cool thing about that is each of my videos is a whole class. So it comes with downloadable class notes with the instructions and the recipes. So you can print them out to keep them or you can take your own notes. And there's also a discussion board with each class. So if you want to ask me questions, if you want to ask questions of your fellow classmates, you can do that. So my website is just a much better platform for me to really make my instructional videos like a whole class and not just a video. So all of my instructional videos are going to be there from now on. So go and check out therockstarbargirl.com if you haven't already, because a new video was just posted. All you have to do is enroll in the class. It is completely free. And when you do so, you'll automatically enter the mailing list, or you can just sign up for the mailing list. There's a little pop-up screen for that. And anybody who is on the mailing list gets free access to my 40-page ebook, The Fundamentals Every Bartender Must Know. And it's a really great ebook because it basically goes over everything that we cover in my full online course. So if you're deciding whether or not a full online course is for you, then my ebook is a great way for you to check it out and see if it covers the materials that you feel like you want to learn. And while we're talking about my online course, I will let you know that if you missed my Black Friday sale, don't worry. Your girl's got you. I'm doing another sale for the Christmas and New Year holiday where the entire course is now 50% off. So you get the entire class, all 8 lessons, the quizzes, assignments, the downloadable class notes, the downloadable flashcard stickers, and my RockStar bar kit, which is my 16-piece bar tool set, all 50% off. And if you're just interested in the bar kit, you don't need the course, you just need a good, portable, sturdy tool set to either set up your home bar or start your mobile bartending career, then you can just get the bar kit, and the bar kit is 20% off. So both of these sales are good through the 1st of January, but I will be out of town over Christmas. So if you want to get your orders in before Christmas, if you're buying the bar kit for someone and it's a gift, definitely get your orders in before December 19th so that you can guaranteed get that shipped to you before the 25th. And the final announcement for you guys is I'm super excited about this. Some of you guys have mentioned in the past that you would like to meet me, do a meet and greet, get together, and I'm so happy because RAW, the National Artists Association, has picked me up as one of their vendors for their next big artist showcase. It's called Raw Premiere, and it's going to be here in New York City in Queens at the Melrose Ballroom on January 29th at 7 o'clock. I am going to be showing and selling my handmade spell candles, ritual bath salts, my herbal tinctures, my blessed crystals, and loose tea blends, and a whole bunch of other goodies. And 4 p.m. crept up on you quickly. Yeah, that happens to me too. I was almost late. But yeah, I'm going to be showcasing all my stuff, and I'm going to be giving free tarot readings. So if you are available, if you're in the city, please come check me out. If you are not available, I truly need your help and support anyway. I am required to sell 20 tickets in order to participate. So you could buy a ticket even though you're not going to be able to come, or you could just leave me a donation. If you go to the link in my bio on my Instagram, you can either purchase a ticket or give me a donation to help me reach my goal. So I really appreciate you guys' support, and I'll be giving you more information about it as we get closer to the date. All right, so those are my announcements. Hello everybody who is in here. Today's topic is your resume. Let's fix your resume. A resume is super critical. Hi, Mad Dog. Super critical in any industry. Having one is really important. You'd be surprised how many people have walked into bars and restaurants that I've been managing looking for work without their resume. The answer is always goodbye, see you when you have one, come back with it. So you need to have one. But making a resume can be a really stressful and complicated thing if you haven't done it a lot, or if you haven't done it for hospitality and you're not sure how it differs from resumes in other industries. So I have 2 videos already on the YouTube channel about making your resume, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is a beginner's video, just talks about the actual structure of a resume. We actually go onto my computer screen with a sample resume that I created, and I walk you through every single part of the resume and what you should have on it. And then in part 2, we talk about how to take a basic hospitality industry resume, if you're already a server or a host, or you've started bartending but only have a couple places, how to improve it. And we also talk about writing a really good cover letter, and I give you an example of my sample cover letter. So definitely check out those videos for some basic how-tos. But what I wanted to talk about in this video are some key mistakes that I see made on resumes that are otherwise okay, but need some sprucing up in order to not look too amateurish or not too unprofessional. So I wanted to give you guys those 5 tips, those 5 areas of your resume where you want to pay some attention. And then if you have specific questions about your resume, I encourage you to go ahead and ask me while you have me now, because I can give you some hands-on pointers about specific questions you might have in your resume situation, okay? So I think the best way to do this is for me to talk about my 5 tips first, and then you guys can chime in with your specific questions, and I can help you individually with your resume questions. So let's get started. So the very first tip about a really good resume is proper formatting. Resumes that are formatted improperly really kind of automatically set you aside from everyone else, and not in a good way. It makes your resume look very unprofessional. It makes your resume look very amateurish, like you haven't done it before, or you're new to the industry, or just new to like work life in general. And so it's really important that you format your resume properly. In my video, like I mentioned on your resume, I go over the exact details of what the formatting of your resume should be, the order everything should be in, what should come before what, etc. So I won't rehash all of that here. But some of the most glaring things that I see done often have to do with the education section, the experience section. Your experience section should be one of the first things on the resume. Education, skills, references, and things of that nature should come after that. So if you have your education and things like that before your experience, you're going to want to flip that around. The thing that a manager in hospitality is most interested in is what experience you have in the industry and where you've worked before. So if you have an objective line, that would come first, but right after that should be your experience. The next glaring mistake that I see made often is having your experience out of order. So your experience section should always be in reverse chronological order going down the page. So it should start off with your current experience first and then go backwards in time until the beginning of your work history. So if you've got your first job first and then where you're working currently at the end, you're doing it wrong. You need to flip that and work backwards. This is because your manager is primarily concerned with where you are working now and what your current work status is, because that informs them about your availability in terms of whether or not you can take on the job that you have right now. They're going to want to know what level of experience you have, and your current job is going to tell them a lot about that. But it also tells them a little something about whether or not you're available to start working with them immediately, or what type of schedule you would need. Perhaps you want to stay at your current job and this is a second job, or perhaps you left that job, you're no longer working, and you're available now full-time for this job. Seeing where you're working and what your current employment status is going to let them know that right off the bat. And remember, in this industry, a lot of times managers are looking at your resumes first by email or on a job site before they talk to you. So they don't have the ability to get explanations about things from you. So your resume needs to be pretty clear about what's going on in your life right now before they get a chance to talk to you for further information. So having your current employment and your current employment status up front and the first thing they see is going to be really helpful for them. Okay, another formatting issue that I see all the time that is a pretty big no-no is the description section of each job. So what people sometimes do is they will write their description section in what's called prose, which are basically full, complete sentences with periods. I worked at this location for such and such months. I was responsible for these things. I really enjoyed it, and blah, 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 blah. No. Your description section should not be a paragraph. Okay, there's like all kinds of things going on right now. My home phone. Yes, I have a landline because I have a business. Okay, I thought the answering machine was gonna start talking in Chinese because like once a day I get a phone call in Chinese. I don't know who in China had my number before, but yeah, it happens all the time. It's a little bit weird. But anyway, distractions, right, of the hood, typical. But when it comes to your description section for each of your jobs, these should not be full prose paragraphs. They need to be written in bullet points, okay? So there should be like an asterisk, a bullet point icon, a dot, what have you. And then one, maybe two sort of fragment sentences that reflect what your responsibilities were, what your position was, or what you did at that location, right? So responsible for management, basic management duties, including staffing, interviewing, training, inventory, something like that. As opposed to, I was responsible for some management duties that included, we don't want full paragraph sentences. Not only is that just not neat and professional formatting, but managers don't have time to sit and read little paragraphs or read little novels about what you did anyway, where they need bullet points that get right to the point of what your experience was or what your responsibilities were at that location, okay? So that is formatting. The next tip about your resume is about your objective. The objective line is one of those things that is not super critical to a resume. If you have a lot of job experience and you're running out of space, it's way more important that your resume fit on one page than you have an objective line. So you might want to consider getting rid of your objective entirely. If you've got like 4 or 5 jobs now on your resume and you're running out of space, it's not super critical. What is your job objective? To get a job, right? You can word that in a more flowery, professional sounding way, but it's not important. The bottom line is you are submitting this resume because you want a job. Everybody who's got your resume knows that, so the job objective is not super critical. Unless you can use that line to give some really important information about yourself, such as having just won a bartending competition or opened a business or written a book or something that would like really draw attention to something significantly unique about you, you really don't need the job objective line. Now, that being said, if you don't have a lot of experience on your resume, and that's probably the situation that most of you are in, your job objective serves as kind of like a space filler and adds more material to your resume so that it doesn't look blank. That's totally fine. In that case, though, it's important that your job objective be poignant, crisp, to the point, and professional, and not just kind of like a run-on sentence, all right? So something to the effect of bartender with 2 years of experience in the hospitality industry seeks full-time employment in a high-volume environment, period. You want one line, maybe 2, but try to keep it to 1 that is really to the point, says something about your experience and what you're looking for in a very clear and crisp way. If you can't figure out how to do that and you don't need the objective line, like I said, just get rid of it, okay? Tip number 3 for you is avoiding redundant words. So in your description section, like I said, each job should have some description about what you've done at that job, what your experience level is, or what responsibilities you had. They should be fragmented sentences that start with a word like experienced with, responsible for, managed, scheduled, etc., as opposed to I did this or I did that. But you don't want each of those bullet points to start off with the same word. It gets really redundant and the manager is not likely to read all that material if you start every bullet point with experienced in, or responsible for. You can use the same word in different job descriptions, but try to avoid using the same word over and over for each job, okay? And along the same lines of redundancy, try to avoid giving the same information about each job. At the end of the day, a manager knows pretty much what you do based on your position. If you are a server or a bartender or a host, they have a general understanding of what it is you did at every job. So avoid saying things like, responsible for knowing the menu at this location. Of course you were responsible for knowing the menu if you were a server or bartender. That's literally your job. So don't repeat that over and over for every job position. You might want to mention it once, but don't be redundant and repeat it over and over. Find unique things to talk about for each job on your list. So think about what things you were responsible for, what experiences you had, or what things you learned so that you can mention something different about each job. Okay? Moving on to tip number 4. I see this done so much, and it's a huge mistake, but I can understand why people make this error. Your resume should include all of your work history. Please stop. Oh, hi, Dima Dome. Please stop cutting off your work history. I will sit down for interviews with people all the time, and they'll just have maybe 2 jobs and only 4 years of work history, but they're like 27 years old. And I'm like, okay, did you just start, you got your first job in 2015? And they're like, oh no, well before that I was in this industry, or before that I was a host, or before that I did this. That should be on your resume. Work experience is important because, as I've said in other videos, being a bartender is about way more than just making drinks. Being a bartender is really a catch-all type of job. There are so many skills and qualities and characteristics that are going to inform a manager about whether or not you are going to be a good bartender, that go above and beyond what you did in hospitality, what you did at your last bartending job, or having anything to do with drink making. So if you were in a different industry and you were, let's say, in retail or in customer service, put that on there. Your description section for each of those jobs doesn't need to be 5 bullet points. You don't need to tell me everything you did as a cashier at Forever 21 or as a telemarketer for a phone company, because you're right. Those things are not necessarily super relevant to bartending, but there are definitely going to be 1, 2, maybe even 3. I thought resume shouldn't be too long, 2-page max. I thought some industries didn't care if you're not. Okay, so first of all, never 2 pages. A resume must only be 1 page always. You are correct that it shouldn't be too long, but that doesn't mean that it should be missing information. If you are a cashier at Forever 21, you'll write cashier Forever 21 from this date to this date, and then underneath your bullet point can be handled cash and credit card transactions on a daily basis, worked with customers and resolved their issues. Boom. 2 little lines. That won't take up very much space at all. Proper formatting, small margins, small line spacing, and 12 font will mean that that shouldn't take up much space at all. Like I said, you just tuned in, but earlier in proper formatting, you should be formatting the description of each of your experiences in bullet points. They should be fragmented sentences, not run-on sentences. So they shouldn't start with I was responsible for da 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 da. It should simply say responsible for this, this, this. They're short, concise, fragmented sentences that should fit on 1 line and get right to the point of what you learned. So you want that experience on there because somebody who's been working for 14 years versus somebody who's been working for 4 years has a whole different set of skills, a sense of professionalism, responsibility, dedication, and commitment potentially. And so I want to know how long this person has been in the job industry. So you don't want to leave off things that are outside of bartending. What you want to do is you want to focus in on the responsibilities, the skills, or the things that you learned at those jobs that are specifically relevant to bartending. So using my cashier or employee at Forever 21 as an example, no, you do not need to explain to me that you were responsible for folding all the sweaters at night. That is not relevant. But if you worked the cash registers and you had to take cash transactions, count a bank, process credit card transactions, and not fuck that up, then that's absolutely relevant to bartending. You have to do that all day long behind the bar. So the fact that you have worked extensively with a POS system, worked extensively with a cash register, and with financial transactions is relevant to your job. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Include the Forever 21 job on there. Say that you were in retail in 2013 for a year and a half, but only put 1, maybe 2 bullet points about what you did there, and only focus in on the skills that are relevant to bartending, like cash handling, inventory management, or customer service. Okay, so please stop doing that. Please stop leaving off your job experiences, especially for those of you who have experience in the hospitality industry. Many of you will go and put the 2 jobs that you had where you were a bartender, and then leave off the 3 jobs where you were a server and the job where you was a host. That's crazy. That is super, super relevant. Being a bartender means that you kind of have your finger in every little part of the restaurant. You're at the front door because you're getting reservations, and you're seating parties, and you're taking people who have who want to sit at the bar and have a drink before their reservation starts. You need to know what the specials are that are advertised outside, even if they aren't drink specials or food specials. You need to know what's going on in the kitchen. You're involved with what's happening on the floor and what's happening with the servers. You have your hand in everything that's happening in the running of that restaurant. So anything that you have done in a restaurant has given you valuable experience to being even better at your job as a bartender. So you need to include that on your resume. I cannot stress that enough. Okay? Now, the same rule applies. If you were a host at a restaurant, you would list that restaurant, your position as a host, the dates that you served as a host, and then in the descriptor, you would put 1 or 2 bullet points about the things you did as a host that are relevant to bartending. So the fact that you were responsible for wiping down the menus at the end of the night, probably not super relevant to bartending, okay? But the fact that you had to manage all of the reservations and interact with the guests on the phone and take reservations, that is a great example of excellence in customer service. And if you learned how to do that in a competent fashion, then that is relevant to bartending, okay? So don't feel like every one of your jobs needs to have 5 million bullet points. They don't, and they should not. They should have something like 3 to 5 bullet points for the bartender specific jobs. And for things that are not bartender specific, they should have 1 to 3 bullet points that focus in on the skills or the responsibilities you had that are relevant to being a good bartender. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Please do not send anybody a 2-page resume. All right, that is completely improper formatting, and it will not get looked at. It's also really annoying when managers are trying to print them out and get them organized for like mass interviews. Don't do that. 1 page, format properly so that you can fit everything onto the page, and avoid running on with a lot of information that is not relevant or not necessary. Okay. And before I move on to the last tip, I will just apologize for the sirens outside. Y'all know I live in the hood. Should be popping off around here all the time. I'm pretty sure there are sirens in like every single one of the videos that I've put out, except today it sounds like, you know, some shit popped off like literally right down the street. So forgive me. Real life over here. But the 5th tip that I want to give you guys is about your skills section. And in particular, I want to talk to you about including the languages that you speak in the skills section. Now, I know that the world that we live in is a rough one. Sirens always blaring in New York. Yeah, I don't know if any of you have been to New York. Mad Dog, I know you're over there in Australia. I don't know if, do y'all have a hood in Australia? Everything seems like really nice in paradise, but I assume that you have the hood somewhere, so you might have a similar situation. But I live in the hood, I live in the Bronx, boogie down, and sirens are always going off. It's like ridiculous. I cannot tell you guys how long it takes me to make my instructional videos for you, because I really can't have the sirens in those videos. So I literally have to stop what I'm doing every time one goes by. So it has taken me sometimes 5 or 6 hours just to make one like 20-minute video for you. So that's a little bit annoying. Shout out to the BX. Yeah, but anyway, so thank you for being understanding. But your skills section. So we live in a world, unfortunately, and for those of you who are not in the US, you know, I don't really know exactly how things are in your particular country, but over here in the US, you know, racism and racial prejudice has really, really reared its ugly, ugly head. It's always been here, but we're in a situation right now where people who are outwardly prejudiced and racist towards different ethnicities, minorities, non-English speaking people have really been emboldened and encouraged to just put their nasty racism right out there. And I can understand why someone who doesn't speak English as their first language, or who speaks other languages, or comes from an ethnic background that's not just Caucasian, or, you know, born American, might not want to bring a lot of attention to that. But I want to give you a little bit of encouragement, and I want to let you know why I feel like that's really relevant and important information to include on your resume. Regardless of what is going on in any individual's heart about how they feel about particular races, ethnic backgrounds, or non-English languages, the hospitality industry is one of those places where you simply cannot escape multiculturalism. You just can't. Everybody needs to eat, everybody needs to drink, and everybody's money, as long as it's green, is good at any bar or restaurant. Okay? So whether you, the manager, like it or not, you are going to have people come into your bar and restaurant for service who are of different ethnic backgrounds and who might not speak English. It is a lifesaver to have someone in your front of house staff that speaks different languages, because when that Spanish speaking family, that French speaking family, that Russian speaking person comes into your bar and does not speak enough English to communicate easily with everyone, it is so flippin' fantastic to be able to run over to that server, bartender, or host who speaks that language and say, hey, we just had a table come in that really only speaks Spanish. Could you take that table, please? It is a huge benefit for the restaurant, because sometimes places will simply not go, or people will not go to restaurants where they can't communicate, right? You can't tell somebody how you want your steak so that you get it right. You're likely to not go there. That's money that I, as a manager or an owner, want to come into my restaurant. So having staff that speaks different languages is great for me. It's going to make people feel comfortable. It's going to make them want to come to my restaurant and spend money. And so that is a skill that you can really, really use to your benefit, okay? Aside from that, restaurants themselves are often multicultural and ethnic. You have a lot of restaurants that are American cuisine, but for every American cuisine restaurant that's out there, especially in urban environments, you have 5 or 10 not American cuisine bars and restaurants. And so oftentimes, not only are the customers that are coming into the restaurant people who speak foreign languages, or different languages rather, English is foreign to some people, speak different languages, but the staff that works there, particularly in the back of house, might speak the language of the cultural background of that cuisine. And you being able to communicate with them is super helpful. I utilize my Spanish, shaky as it is, on a daily basis in the restaurant industry. Not only do guests, being in New York, which has a very large Latin population, not only with guests, but with my back of house and my staff members. I use Spanish every single day. I'm so grateful that I know a little bit and I'm working on becoming fluent because it's literally that beneficial to me doing my job. So if you speak another language other than English, please, please list it on your resume. What I do on mine is I have under the skills section languages, colon, and it says English, parentheses, fluent, Spanish, parentheses, basic knowledge, French, parentheses, basic knowledge, because I took French in college and like some of it is still in there. But I want the manager to know that I can communicate in different languages. That's an asset to being an employee. If you are someone who English is not your first language, particularly if, let's say, your name reflects that, let's say your name, has a very obvious ethnic last name on it, putting down in the skills section that you speak English fluently is also helpful because, like I said, unfortunately, there sometimes are some prejudices against non-English speaking people. So while you want to highlight the fact that you speak multiple languages because that's a benefit, you also want to be clear that you speak English fluently enough to talk to the managers, talk to the owners, talk to the English speaking people that are in your restaurant and communicate in English if you work in an English speaking country. Obviously, if you don't speak in an English speaking country, then apply the same principle but substitute everywhere where I said English for your country's native language, right? So you want it to be clear that if you're bartending in Thailand, that you are fluent in Thai. But if you also speak English and Spanish and a little bit of French, put that on there as well. That is very beneficial information for any manager to have. Okay, speaking of Thai, my Thai-inspired coconut curry shrimp soup that is percolating for the hubby's birthday is on the stove, so I'm gonna go check on it. While I'm doing that, get your questions ready for me because those are my 5 tips on how to improve or spruce up a resume that might be lackluster or might be kind of a beginner's resume. And if you have specific questions about your resume, then I can help you out with that now. So I'll be right back. I'm back. You guys, I'm so excited. I wish you could smell this right now. I can't wait for the future when like live has like smell-o-vision and you can like smell things because I had a whole coconut left over from a spiritual head wash that I made this week. And I was like, what do I do with this coconut? And I had like 1 potato in the fridge left over from a potato dish that my husband made. He made like vegetarian shepherd's pie. And I was like, I have a potato, I have a whole coconut, I have shrimp in the fridge, I have curry in the house because I have every seasoning you can think of, and it just came together and it's gonna be so good. But anyway, enough about my soup. Let's talk about your resume. So let me just scroll and make sure I didn't miss anything. No. Okay, so let's see. Are there any questions about the 5 tips that I mentioned so far? Or are there any questions about your particular resume? Does everybody who's in the room have a bartending resume? So let me just make sure that everybody has a resume. So if you can comment and just let me know if you have a resume at all. If you don't have a resume, I strongly encourage you to make one. And like I said, I have 2 videos to help you do that where I actually like screen recorded my computer screen of me making a resume from a blank piece of paper. So you can see step by step how you should format it. So if you've never made a resume before and you don't have one, that video will be the most helpful for you because it will show you the nitty gritty of like step by step what to do. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions or comments. So are you guys all good? Are you guys still there? Are you still with me? And are you like feeling like my resume is solid? It's all good. Will you go over what should be on resume? Okay, yeah. So, okay, yeah. So maybe there's just like a little delay. So yeah, like I said, my video, which is just up on YouTube. So when you're done here, you can check that out. My video, how to smell a vision. I know, right? I feel like maybe that won't be like such a great idea. I don't necessarily want to smell the situations of everyone that I follow on live, but you want to smell the soup I'm making right now. It's going to be so good. But yeah, so that video, like I said, I screen recorded my computer screen, and we take a blank piece of paper digitally, and I literally type up for you a resume from scratch. So we go over from the beginning with how to format your name and your contact information, to the job objective, which would be next, your experience, which should go after that, your education, and then your skills and any relevant certifications or things like that. So that's the general order that a resume should be in. Like I said, to your point, it should absolutely be on one page. So what happens is, like for me, I've been doing this for 15 years. My resume is one page, okay? I have, I don't know, 8 or 10 different locations that I have worked that are relevant to my bartending industry resume, and so those are all on there. But because I've worked in so many places and I've served as a general manager, and it should be quite obvious to anybody who is looking at my resume what my skill set is, I actually don't have a description of what I did in each position. It's not necessary. For someone like me, that is. So it literally says, you know, bartender, such and such restaurant from this year to this year. Then bartender, such and such restaurant from this year to this year, all the way up. Manager, general manager, and it just goes up the list. There's no need for me to put a descriptor and all of that. And all of that fits in one page. Yes, all of that fits on one page. Like I said, I got rid of the little bullet point descriptors after every position. Once I got to the point where I have like 10, I've been a bartender in no less than 10 different places. Do I really need to tell you over and over and over again that I was responsible for making drinks or knowing the menu or running the bar? No. It's perfectly obvious at this point what my skill set is. So if you have a lot of things on your resume, don't be redundant. Don't list things that are obvious. If you are saying things on your resume like responsible for giving excellent customer service to my guests, get rid of that. That is absolutely obvious. Of course you're responsible for giving customer service to your guests. That's literally your job. Don't put that type of stuff on there. Now, if you're trying to fill up space, you might want to mention stuff like that. But if you've gotten to the point where you're running out of space, get rid of that stuff. That doesn't benefit a manager in any way. If you've been doing this job now for 7, 8 years, obviously you give customer service to your guests. You would have been fired from each of these jobs. You wouldn't have made it this long probably, right? So get rid of some of that obvious stuff. Don't be redundant. Don't repeat yourself in every job position. If you worked with a POS and a cash register in one job, I know you did the same thing in every other job. Don't just keep saying that over and over. Get rid of that. You're taking up space. Also, look at the literal formatting of your page. If you've got big old fat 1-inch margins and everything is double spaced and you're writing in 14 font, and your information section with your name and your date is this big and takes up the top third of the page, or you have huge spaces in between each and every job position, of course you're going to run out of space. So sometimes just the technical formatting of how your page is structured is hindering you. Okay, so decrease your margins to 1/2 inch. Less than that, it's not gonna print. So 1/2 inch on the sides, top and bottom. Make sure that you're writing in 12-point font, that you are single spaced, that you don't have excessive spacing or really large sizes of things anywhere. And avoid redundant bullet points. Don't repeat things twice. Once you learned how to do something once or got experience in doing something once, you now have experience or learn or know how to do that thing. You don't need to keep repeating it. And get rid of things that are either obvious or are not relevant to the job of bartending. For you specifically, honey, if you still have a job objective line and you're running out of space, get rid of it. You do not need a job objective line. Your objective is you want a job. When you're trying to take up space, you have a new resume and you only have a couple things to put on it, a job objective line can be useful for taking up space. And also if you've done something notable in the industry, like competed in a competition or you have a ton of experience in something, a job objective line could be a way for you to kind of sneak that in there and bring attention to that great thing that you did. But if that's not the case and your job objective just says something like, experienced bartender looking for a part-time position in high volume environment, while that's formatted well, it's not really needed. I can see from your resume that you're an experienced bartender, and of course you're looking for a position. And of course I think my bar is high volume. Everyone thinks their bar is high volume. So if that will save you space, then just get rid of it. And I think you tuned in a little bit late, so you might not have been there for the formatting section, but I mentioned that the description underneath each job position should not be written in prose. So if you are writing full-on sentences, I am experienced in such and such, I was responsible for doing this and doing that, I really enjoyed it, get rid of that. Your description section should be bullet points. They should be fragmented sentences that do not begin with a subject. They should start with a verb. And ideally, each bullet point would take up no more than one line. So if you make those changes, I promise you, you will get it onto one page. Like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years. I have over 10 different locations and positions that are on my resume, and I still have room for a picture, my name, my phone number, an education section that has 5 different points of education in it, and a skills section that has 4 different things in it. So you can absolutely get it into one page if you take the things I said into consideration and make those changes. Okay, but that's a really, really great question. It really does need to be one page. Sorry, I missed a bit. Is a pick of yourself. Great question, Mad Dog. So this is something I didn't cover in this video, so you didn't miss it, because I do think that's personal. This video I wanted to focus in on like mistakes that people make, but in my resume video I do talk extensively about a picture and why I believe you should have one. So this was a tip that I actually got in bartending school way back in the day, and I have used this for my entire work career, and it has always benefited me. Not a full page picture, and not an inappropriate picture of you throwing back a drink or you in a little titty tank top. A small, maybe 2" by 2" square. Would it be? Maybe it's 1". No, that's 1" by 1" I think is too small. That's like passport size. 2 by 2 is probably good enough, but definitely not huge. Don't have it take up a third of your page, but a nice square, clear headshot, professional photo of yourself is a great addition to your resume. It has helped me immensely. What it does for me as a manager, once I started interviewing and getting resumes, I started to understand even better why it's beneficial. It's not necessary, but I do it because it helps you to stand out from the pack. You have to understand that when managers put out job ads, they will get sometimes hundreds of responses, hundreds. And it can get really overwhelming, especially if just one manager is the one doing the hiring. Having a picture on your resume helps them to remember you, helps them to keep you in order. I've literally had situations where I've had open calls, So I haven't had the opportunity to look over the resumes ahead of time. And I've had 10 people come in. And I'm trying to get through them as fast as possible because I don't have 10 hours. And I get to the end and I have like little scribbled notes on my resumes. And I go back and I'm like, oh, wait, which one was this person again? And I've literally forgotten which person it was went with which resume. And it's so annoying because you're like, oh man, like I really like that person's attitude. Was that Tyler or was that Mike? Oh crap. And like you literally will get overwhelmed and confused, and a perfectly good candidate for the position could get overlooked or pushed to the side because you literally just like forgot who was who. Having a picture on the resume means that never happens. I am always going to remember which one of the candidates I spoke with matches that resume. All right. So it's very, very helpful. It also just makes you look professional. And, you know, at the end of the day, as much as I want to say that people are being like just totally objective and going on your experience, but no, I don't have a bartender resume. I haven't been one yet, but I have a server's resume. Fantastic. It's the same thing. Okay, it's the same thing. Like I said earlier, as you start to bartend, you're just gonna add on to that resume. Please don't go and make a different resume. Your server resume, your server experience is 100% relevant to being a bartender. But that picture on there does help to give the person who is potentially interviewing you an idea of what you look like. So a crisp, clean headshot, you know, that's not like in a party environment or something crazy, just on a plain background, is a great way for the manager to see you. And I know this might sound a little bit weird because nobody wants to be judged on their looks. But for me, I prefer that a manager look at my resume before they call me in for an interview and decide whether or not they think I'm a good fit for their location, because I don't want my time wasted. That's probably a little bit unique to me because when I am applying for jobs, I typically have a lot of interviews that are offered to me, and I'm busy because I now own 2 businesses and I don't have time to go into a location and have somebody decide just based on my looks that they don't want to hire me. I'd rather you come to that conclusion before you invite me in for a resume, because I don't have the time. So I like having my picture there, and I like for managers to say, she doesn't really have the look for our location. Thank you. Let's get to that. Let's get that over with right away. So it's totally not necessary to answer your question, but I do recommend it. So long as that picture is professional and well done, it should not hinder your opportunity to get a job. It might have no factor, but more often than not, it will help you to stand out and not get lost in the pile of resumes that the manager is looking over. Great question. Okay. Are there any more questions on resumes, either on the 5 tips that I talked about today to help you avoid making mistakes on your resumes, or specific questions on your personal resume? While I wait for any last questions or comments to come in, I just want to remind you guys, I have 3 relevant questions for you. Give me a moment to type each. Oh, okay. No problem. Great. All right, good. So while you're typing those, I will just really quickly remind everybody to please make sure to like this video for me, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and click on the bell button so you get notified every time I go live. My tip of the week live videos are every Friday at 4 p.m. So definitely make sure to tune in, and your likes really mean a lot to me. They're really, really helpful for me as I gather information on whether or not the tip of the week should continue to be in a live format. I'm getting the impression that you guys are enjoying being able to ask your questions of me right at the moment. So I think we'll keep going with the lives, but your likes really help me. You don't have to wait for the video to be over to like. You can go down to the bottom of your screen and click on the like button before the video is over. So make sure to give me a like, subscribe, and click on the bell button. Thank you. I see someone just liked. Appreciate it. And if you didn't get a chance to, if you joined the live late, yes, this can absolutely be rewatched, Mrs. Finesse. Thank you for joining. As soon as the video is, actually, you could technically go and start it over right now. But as soon as the video is done, it'll take like 5 minutes to process, and then the whole thing will get posted to my page. I actually see a couple of you joining us now. Hi, if you've come in late, don't worry that you missed the tips. You can rewatch this video. You can actually go and start the video over now if you want, or you can wait until it's done and watch it at some other time that's more convenient for you. If you are coming in late, then you missed the announcements at the beginning of the video. Please make sure to check those out. I have some really important announcements, including information about my latest instructional video and how to get access to it. A wonderful holiday sale that I am running right now on my full online course and on my Rockstar Bar kit, and an announcement about where you can come and hang out with me in January if you would like to meet your Rockstar Bar Girl, and a way for you to help support me as I attempt to pull off my very first craft show and public appearance. So please do go back to the beginning of this video to check out those announcements. I think you'll be really interested in all of that. And we've got just a few more minutes left in the live. I like to try to keep it to an hour so I don't bore you guys. And also, I have to finish my basmati or jasmine rice to go with my husband's birthday soup. So we'll go through the last of your questions and then we'll wrap it up. So the first question is, what about the ads that say, we don't consider resumes with photos on them? Then take your photo off. Okay? If there's anything that a bar or restaurant specifically tells you that they want to see on your resume or that they don't want to see on your resume, oblige them. Your resume is not chiseled into a tablet of stone. It can be changed, and probably should be changed, to tailor to the place that you are applying to, the environment that you are interested in, etc. For a long time, I have at different stages in my life have had up to 5 different versions of the same resume. For a while, I was looking for restaurant jobs at the same time that I was looking for like nightclub jobs. So I had a picture on both, but the picture was different. The picture on my restaurant management bartender job resume was a professional headshot that only went up to here, square, plain background, etc. My nightclub resume one was a picture that, you know, went a little bit lower, showed a little bit of cleave. I had more makeup on, more jewelry, and was a little bit more of a fun picture. Still not inappropriate. I wasn't taking a shot or in a bar or restaurant in the picture or anything. It was still a headshot, but my look was just a little bit more glammed up, a little bit more sex appeal maybe, that was appropriate to applying to like nightclubs and gentlemen's clubs, as opposed to the picture that I used for restaurant jobs and management jobs. So you can tailor the photo to your positions, or if the place directly says, we don't want to get into any picture business, we don't want anybody accusing us of bias or anything like that, then take your picture off. It's no problem. Have a file, bartender resume with pic, bartender resume without pic. Totally easy fix right there. Let's see, did the second question come in? Oh, it just says side note. So I'll wait for you to type that up. If anybody else has any questions, now is the time to get them in before we wrap up. So make sure to type them. But if you're watching this later and the live is already done, then don't worry about it. Just go ahead and leave your question or your comment for me down below, and I will still answer them for you. Can you speak on the importance of licensing, like food handlers, tip certification, etc.? Absolutely. I've talked about this in other videos, in particular in my video about why you don't need a bartending license, or why there's like technically kind of like no such thing in terms of bartending school, but there are bartending certifications. Food handlers and alcohol safety fall into the category of certifications, and they are super important. They are very helpful. Most bars and restaurants actually pay less money in their insurance premiums if they hire people who have those types of certifications, particularly the alcohol safety certifications. So there are a lot of bars and restaurants that will only hire bartenders with those certifications. So I very much encourage you to go online. On my video about bartending licensing, I actually include the link. So check out that video. It's in the description box. I include the link to like the government page that will link you to every single state's certification information pages, as well as the links to TIPS alcohol safety page and the main government food handlers safety page, so that you can find out in your state how to get certified in these things. But basically it's pretty straightforward. Every state gives some type of food handling certification course. Usually it's a course that you take online, and then you go to the government office to take a test in person. It usually costs somewhere around $25 for the whole process. It's not super expensive. And then you get a food handler's card it's an actual card that you would keep in your wallet. If you are interested in managing a bar, it is required that you have that certification pretty much everywhere you go, because when the health department comes in to check your bar or restaurant, and they do so randomly, you must have one person on premise who is clocked in who has a food handler certification. So if you are a bartender that's working like a lunch shift where a manager isn't present, and you're just one of the few staff members, you need to have that, because your bar will get a very serious citation if there isn't anybody there. So particularly when it comes to the bartending position, not the server position so much, but the bartending position, managers want to see that you have your food handler's certification. So that means basically you can be in the bar or restaurant by yourself without a manager, and they don't have to worry about getting into big trouble for leaving you. Your alcohol safety, also as important. There isn't an equivalent in terms of like needing to have someone on premise with alcohol safety, but like I said, bars and restaurants pay a lot of money for liability insurance in order to serve alcohol to people and be covered for the accidents and the dangerous situations that people might get into. And so if you have alcohol safety training, a lot of insurance companies will actually decrease the bar's premiums for hiring people with that type of training, because it means that there's a less likely chance that someone's going to be seriously injured and the insurance company is going to get sued or have to pay out a bunch of money. So they give you an incentive for hiring people with that type of safety training. So yes, very important, really simple to get. Check out that video I talked about to click on the links and get the information for how to get certified in your state for food handlers, or how to get certified through TIPS or Serve Safe, which are two really popular national alcohol safety training programs. All right, so really great questions. If there's any other certifications that you can get, first aid, CPR, anything like that is totally useful, okay? Is there an effective way to get professional references when a job demands you have references? How do you go about getting those under your resume? Okay, so couple of things. So first of all, when it comes to your references, if you don't have a lot of information on your resume, listing one or two professional references on the bottom under your skill set could be a way to kind of take up some space and add some things. If you have a lot of things on your resume like you do, you don't want to list your references on the bottom. They're just taking up space. Instead, what you can do is just include a line at the bottom that says references available upon request. Okay, so they know that you have references that are ready and available. What I do is I have my resume on one page, and then with the same header, so the same picture and phone number and header information, and in the same font and format, I also have a separate document of my references that have like 3 to 5 professional references with their name, their position, the bar or restaurant they work in, and their contact information already written up. So if someone asks me for my references, I can immediately give that to them. I don't send that to them at first. I just send my one-page resume with my email, cover letter. Sean, I'm going to come back to that question. My email cover letter. But if they ask me for references, I don't have to sit there coming up with it. I already have those references. And those references are supervisors or managers or owners of bars and restaurants where I've worked in the past, where I left on a good foot, okay? Don't include references, this should go without saying, but don't include references of places where you quit last minute or you like stole money or like, you know, whatever. I don't judge, but whatever you did, if you were fired under, you know, not great circumstances or something like that, don't put that on there, okay? Now, your references, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, unless you are applying for a pretty higher level bartending position in like a craft environment, or you're applying for a management position, managers don't have the time to be calling references. Swear to God, it's not going to happen. They might ask you for them just to see if you can produce them and if you're legit, but nobody's got the time really to be sitting there calling references. The one job where I was managing, where my owners made me do that, it was a complete waste of time, and I really fought with them about it. Doesn't help you very much at all. So managers don't really bother doing it for just average entry-level bartending positions. But they are good to have anyway. So what you want to do is on any job that you left on a good standing, just reach out to your manager, shift supervisor, the person who trained you. Even it doesn't even have to be somebody with a higher position than you. It could be somebody who trained you, but somebody who can speak with some level of clarity about what type of an employee you are. Just ask them if it's okay if you list them as a resume, as a reference, and keep them on your reference list. As you move through your career, you'll get rid of the references that aren't super useful, like maybe the person that trained you, and you'll include people who carry more weight or more prestige in the business, managers, general managers, owners of bars and restaurants who would be willing to say a couple of nice words about you working for them. Your references don't have to be limited to the bartending industry though. If you have work experience at all, any manager, supervisor, owner who would speak well of you and could give good information about what type of employee you are, you can list as a reference, like I said, until you gain more relevant reference options. Okay, so that is how you would go about getting professional references. Just ask. You're not going to need recommendation letters from people. They would literally just have to be willing to pick up the phone and say, yep, I worked with that person. Yeah, they worked at this bar from this time to this time. Yep, they were pretty good at their job, you know, came in on time, always in uniform. We were sad to see them go. Yeah, they're good. That's all you need. So just a couple of people that will do that for you. And like I said, don't include them on your resume unless you need to take up space. Just put references available upon request, and keep a separate document with your references so that it's ready to go. Or so that if you have to fill out an application, because usually applications will ask you for your references, you have all that information there. You're not sitting there texting people like, can I use you as a reference? What's your phone number? What's your email? You know, you have all that ready to go for that process. Now, someone asked me a question that is not really relevant to this particular tip of the week topic, but I do want to address it because it's probably the most important thing, the most important question that you guys have. And that question is from Sean, who asked, how can I gain confidence to start bartending? So Sean, this is a topic that I have covered in a multitude of videos. So I first want to direct you to a video that I put up earlier this year in the summer. It's called You Can Start Bartending Today. Okay, You Can Start Bartending Today, I believe is what it's called. Go check that out, because all I talk about in that video is the importance of confidence and how you can gain it. And I give you some encouragement about getting into this business. The second thing that's going to give you confidence is knowledge. I firmly believe that the only way to gain confidence in an area is knowledge and, of course, experience. But if you haven't started bartending yet, you've probably found it a little difficult to find somebody who's going to hire you and give you experience, right? So if you can't get experience, the only other way to get confidence in anything is to educate yourself and become knowledgeable. All right, so I'm going to take this opportunity to plug myself a little bit, only because I think this will really help you. I have an online course that is an alternative to bartending school. It's much more cost effective, it's much more convenient, and it's totally comprehensive, because I taught at a bartending school for 3 years and went to bartending school when I started my career. So I have a really good idea, and of course managed bars and worked in them for 15 years. So I have a really good idea of what a new bartender really needs to know in order to get that interview, be good at that interview, and get that first job, versus all the extra stuff that bartending school teaches you. And what I did was I created an online course that you can take completely at your own pace from the comfort of your own home, that goes through all of the fundamentals that a bartender needs to know, including the most important drink recipes and cocktail building techniques: how to pour, how to shake, how to stir, etc. In addition to the lessons in my online course, you also get a quiz at the end of every lesson, downloadable class notes, downloadable flashcard stickers to help you make flashcards to memorize your recipes, a discussion board where you can communicate with me and your fellow classmates, and for free, you automatically get my RockStar Bar Kit, which is my 16-piece custom bar tool set. It comes in a portable, stain-resistant carry bag, so you can literally shake cocktails, build cocktails, make drinks at home with me on the online course while I show you in video form. So if you are working, if you are in school, if you are too busy to go to bartending school, or it's too expensive, or you feel like it teaches you too much stuff that you don't need to know, which is true, I highly encourage you to head over to my website, therockstarbargirl.com, and download my free ebook and read over the materials that's included in the course and see if that's material that you find useful. I think you will, and my course will really help you to gain you the confidence that you need to go out there and start applying for jobs, because that's my primary focus. And that's actually the reason why I decided to include my RockStar Bar Kit for free with every course purchase, because having your own tools and being able to build and shake and practice cocktails at home before you get thrown out into the real world is a super, super great way to build your confidence. Right now, for the holiday season, my entire course is 50% off with the code HOLIDAY50. And my bar kit, in case you're not interested in the course and you just want to get my tool set so you can practice at home, is 20% off. And this sale is going through the holidays. So I definitely recommend that you head over to my website, therockstarbargirl.com, and check out my online course. But even if you don't check out my course, whatever you can do to gain knowledge in this area and education in this area, even if you just like binge watch all my YouTube videos, whatever you do to gain knowledge, that will grow your confidence. The only reason why you don't feel confident right now is because there's a lot you don't know. And if you can solve that problem by gaining education in this area, your confidence is going to build, and you're going to feel ready to go out there and start interviewing and start working in this very lucrative and fun industry. So thank you so much for that question. I think that's the perfect note to wrap things up on, because you know homegirl's got to go check out her soup again. So I just want to thank you guys as always for tuning in to this week's Tip of the Week Live. Let's fix your resume. I support you. Continue with these 4 p.m. lives to the end of the year. All right, thank you. I appreciate it. I definitely will continue. The feedback has been really good, so I'm gonna keep going. You know, basically until people say nope, go back to the old format. So please remember to like this video, subscribe, click on the bell button so you're notified every time a new video comes out. Remember, all of my instructional videos are now available on my website exclusively, therockstarbargirl.com, and a new video on how to infuse honey syrup was just dropped today. So definitely head on over to my website. I really want to thank you guys. Thank you for asking questions. I am super happy that you will come to me for this information. Keep tuning in, and as always, I will see you all in the next video. Bye, Rockstars.